For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this really fun knot bag. Basically, it consists of a shorter handle, a longer handle, and two Sunburst motifs, and you just slide the longer handle through the shorter handle. Like I mentioned, you will need two of these Sunburst motifs for this project, and that's where we will start. Each motif is about 7 inches wide. And to begin, you are going to chain 4, slip stitch into the very first stitch you made to form a ring. We're going to work inside the ring here, right there. So you're going to chain 3, and this will count as your first double crochet. And inside of that ring, we are going to make 15 more double crochet. And you'll notice here that I am crocheting over the top of my beginning tail, and I'm actually going to use that tail later to cinch the middle hole a little bit smaller. If you would like to make the magic ring, you're more than welcome to use the magic ring. I just don't prefer to use it. When you get to the end of this round, you should have 16 double crochet total. And you will slip stitch into the third stitch of your beginning chain to join this round. And then you're just going to pull that tail like I mentioned in the center and just make that a little bit smaller. You'll need to cut your yarn and change your colors at this point, and I do go ahead and weave in my tails as I go so I don't have a bunch to weave in at the end. Now for round 2, we are going to join our new color in the spaces between the double crochet. So this is where we're going to be working instead of the top of the stitch for this round. So join in any space, and we're going to chain 1 and puff stitch into that same space we joined in. A puff stitch is simply yarn over, insert your hook into the space and pull up a loop. And you're going to do that 3 times. Yarn over, insert your hook into the space and draw up a loop. Yarn over, insert your hook, draw up a loop. And you should have 5 loops on your hook. So you're going to just yarn over and draw through all 5 loops, and you're just going to chain 1 to secure that puff. And you're just going to repeat this in every space around. So that's yarn over, insert your hook and pull up a loop 3 times. And then you're going to yarn over and draw through all loops on your hook and chain 1. So just continue doing that all the way around, making a puff stitch in each space, and make sure you don't forget to chain 1 in between each puff. At the end of this round, you're just simply going to slip stitch into your first puff, and I would take a moment to make sure you have 16 puffs, and you're going to cut your yarn and change your color and weave in your tails. Now we are going to join round 3 in any space between these puffs, and you're going to start off by chaining 2, and this will count as a double crochet. Now we're just going to make the rest of our cluster here, so that's yarn over, insert your hook and pull up a loop. Yarn over, draw through only 2 loops on your hook. Essentially, you are starting and halfway completing double crochet. So you're starting the double crochet process, but you are not finishing it. And you're going to do that until you have 4 incomplete double crochet, like you see here. And then you're just going to yarn over and draw through all loops. And in between each cluster, we're going to chain 2. Now we're going to make a full cluster. So that's yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2 loops, and you're going to do that 4 times. So essentially 4 halfway completed double crochet. Once you have that, you're going to yarn over and draw through all 5 loops on your hook. And then chain 2. So essentially you're just going to repeat that all the way around. You're going to make a cluster and then chain 2 between each cluster in each space. So just repeat doing that all the way around. And when you get to the end, you should have 16 clusters and 16 chain 2 spaces. Now you're just going to slip stitch into your first cluster to join and cut your yarn and weave in your tails, and we're going to change colors again. Now for round 4, we're going to work in these chain 2 spaces here. And this is going to take our circle shape into that of a square, so be sure to pay attention. Join in any chain 2 space and chain 5. This beginning chain 5 will count as our first treble stitch plus our chain 1 space. In that same space, you're going to make 3 more treble crochet. Now we're going to work 3 double crochet in each of the next 3 spaces. So in the next 3 spaces, you're going to put what is often called a granny cluster. A granny cluster is simply a grouping of 3 double crochet. So you're going to put 3 double crochet in the next 3 spaces. And once you have your 3, this is what your piece should be looking like. Now we're going to make a corner stitch. And you're going to need to do that by making 3 treble crochet, followed by a chain 1 space, and then 3 more treble crochet, all in the same space. And doing that increase will create our corner. So there's my 3 treble. You're just going to chain 1 and make 3 more in that same space. Once you have your corner done, this is what it should look like. 3 treble, a chain 1, and 3 more treble. Now we're going to move along to this next side, and we're going to make a granny cluster in the next 3 spaces. And again, that's just a grouping of 3 double crochet. And this is what it should be looking like so far. After that, we're going to make another corner, and if you remember, that is 3 treble crochet, followed by a chain 1 space, and then 3 more treble crochet, all in the same space. So there's my 3 treble. I'm going to chain 1 and make 3 more treble, all in the same space. And this is what it should be looking like. It should be taking the square shape. In the next 3 spaces, you're going to make your granny clusters. And of course, now that we have those three, we're going to make another corner. Again, that's 3 treble, followed by a chain 1 space, and 3 more treble, all in the same space. And this is what it should be looking like. In our last 3 spaces, we're going to make granny clusters. Now here we are where we began, and we need to make 2 more treble crochet to complete our corner stitch here. So make 2 more treble in the same space where we began. And then you're just simply going to slip stitch into the 4th stitch of our beginning chain to join. Then you're going to cut your yarn, weave in your tails, and change color. Now for this last round, we are going to join in any chain 1 space of a corner, and then we're going to chain 4. This will count as our first double crochet and our chain 1 space. Now we are going to make 3 more double crochet in the same space. For this round, we are going to be working into the spaces between the granny clusters below. So just make sure that that is where you are placing your stitches. And we're just going to simply make a granny cluster in the next 4 spaces. Now here we are at that chain 1 space of our corner, and to keep the corner shape, we're going to have to increase again. Only this time we're going to make 3 doubles, a chain 1, and 3 more doubles in the chain space. So there's my 3 doubles. Now we're going to chain 1 and make 3 more right in that same space. And now we're going to make a granny cluster in the next 4 spaces until we get to our next corner chain space. Essentially, you're going to do a granny cluster in every space until you get to the corner chain spaces, where you will do a granny cluster, a chain 1, and another granny cluster, to put it in simple terminology for you. So there we are. We're at the next corner space. We're going to shape our corner, and that is simply 3 doubles, a chain 1, and 3 more doubles, all in the same chain space. So you're just going to continue in this manner all the way around. Every time you get to a corner chain space, you're going to make that increase, and you're just going to make a granny cluster in each space between the clusters below. And I'll meet you when you get to the beginning space we started at. So here we are at the beginning chain space where we started, and we got to finish our corner. So I have 3 doubles, a chain 1 and another double. So we need to complete our corner by adding 2 more double crochet to this space. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the 3rd stitch of the beginning chain to join. Now this time you're going to leave yourself a bit of a longer tail because we're going to use it for sewing purposes. And then fasten off. Now that we have our 2 motifs, we will join them along one side only, and I did leave myself a long tail for this. Essentially, you're going to thread that tail onto a yarn needle and put your right sides of your motifs together. Then you're going to line up your stitches starting with the chain stitch at the corner. Then we are going to whip stitch through the outer loops only. And of course, there are so many different ways that you can join motifs. Feel free to use your favorite way. This is personally my favorite way. So there's the outer loop and there's the outer loop, and I'm just whip stitching through these outer loops to close my seam up. So just continue doing that all the way across. Once you get to the end, you are of course just going to knot it off and make it secure, and then just weave in your tail really well. This is going to be the bottom of our bag. Then you're going to turn your motif so that the right side is facing you, and we are going to join in the round 5 color, and I'm going to join in this chain 1 space. I'm going to chain 1, and I am going to just skip over that seam and make 2 singles in the next chain 1 space. Then we're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch until we reach the next chain 1 space. So just continue putting 1 single all the way up. When you get to the next chain 1 space, we're going to put 2 singles in it as well. Now we're going to make what's known as a foundation single crochet. We are going to be inserting our hook in between the 2 vertical bars of our last single crochet we just made. First, you will chain 1. Then you're going to insert your hook between the 2 bars of the last single crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop. You should have 2 loops, yarn over, draw through just 1. That is going to be our chain stitch there, and then yarn over and pull through 2 to finish our single crochet. Foundation stitches work vertically rather than horizontally like normal. Essentially, you'll be creating your chain stitch as you create your single crochet stitch simultaneously. So now we're going to insert our hook into the chain stitch that we just made in our last foundation single crochet. Yarn over, pull up 1 loop. Yarn over, go through just 1 loop, and that's going to make our chain stitch. Yarn over, draw through 2 loops, and that's going to complete our single crochet. As you can see, it's going vertically. Insert your hook into the chain stitch that you just made. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, chain 1. Yarn over, draw through both loops to complete your single crochet. So you're just going to repeat this process until you have 40 single crochet stitches. So here I have 40 foundation singles. I have folded it at the seam, and now I'm going to be joining it to the other side at the chain space. And this is going to serve as our longer handle. So we're going to start at this chain space at the top. We're going to put 2 single crochet in that chain space. And now we're simply just going to put a single crochet in every stitch until we reach the chain space where we started. Once you reach the chain space where we started, we are going to put 2 singles in that chain space. And we're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet stitch that we made to join. Now you should have 84 single crochet, so I would stop and count. Cut your yarn and change color. So this is what your piece should look like. And you can see this is going to serve as our handle here. We're going to join at the seam and work in the round from here on out. So I'm going to join right where I made my last slip stitch. Now we're going to do some rounds of double crochet. We're going to chain 2, and this is not going to count as a stitch from here on out. We're going to make 1 double crochet in every stitch around. So just continue doing that all the way up, and I will show you just a few of the foundation single crochet so you know where to put your hook. So this is what it should be looking like here. You're just going to continue in the round like I mentioned before until we reach where we started. You're going to ignore the chain 1 that you made when you started your foundation single crochet and simply work into the tops of the single crochet stitches that you made. It's very simple. And this is what it should look like. It should be seamless. So just continue doing that all the way around. When you get to the end, we're going to skip over that chain 2 and slip stitch into our first double crochet. Going to cut your yarn and change colors. And this is what it should be looking like. We're just going to continue this process. We're going to join in the slip stitch where we ended our last round. Again, you're going to chain 2 and it won't count as a stitch. We're going to double crochet in every stitch around. So just continue putting 1 double in every stitch around, and I'll meet you at the end. So here we are at the end. We're going to skip over our chain 2 and slip stitch to join in our first double. We're going to cut our yarn and change color. We're going to join in that same slip stitch that we just made. Chain 2, put 1 double crochet in every stitch around. So I'll meet you at the end when you've done that. Here we are at the end. We're going to skip over that chain 2 and slip stitch into our first double crochet to join. Cut your yarn and change color. Now from here on out, we're going to do rows of single crochet. We're still going to join in our last slip stitch that we just made. Chain 1 and single crochet in every stitch around. So just continue doing 1 in every stitch and I'll meet you at the end. At the end, you're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet. Cut your yarn and change color. Now you will do 2 more rounds of single crochet just like the last one. Only, of course, you will switch colors every time. So you should have 3 rounds of double and 3 rounds of singles when you're done, and I'll meet you at the end. Now when you fasten off your last round, leave yourself a bit of tail because we're going to use that to sew up our side seam. Line up your stitches at the seam and then count up 20 stitches. You're going to mark that stitch and simply sew up the side seam, those 20 stitches that you just marked. Now I don't whip stitch here, I actually sew. So going back and forth, but of course you can do whatever you would like in order to sew up the side seam. It's completely up to you. So just continue doing that, and I'll meet you when you're done. So this is what the side seam should be looking like. And we are going to create our shorter handle now in the same exact manner. We're going to join at that chain space at the bottom seam with the round 5 color. And we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip over that seam and make 2 single crochet in that next chain space. Now we are just going to single crochet in every stitch until we reach the next chain space. Once you reach that chain space, you're going to put 2 singles in that chain space. And now we're going to do our foundation single crochet like we did before, only this time we're going to do 20 instead of 40. Again, you're going to chain 1 and insert your hook between the 2 vertical bars of our last single crochet. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, draw through 1 loop only to create your chain stitch. Yarn over, draw through both loops to finish off your single crochet. So it's just like what we did before, only we're just doing half the number. So keep making your foundation single crochet until you have 20 total. And when you're done making your 20, I'll meet you at the end. So here I have my 20 foundation single crochet, and I'm going to join in the opposite chain space just like I did for the longer handle. So we're going to join in this opposite chain space and make 2 single crochet in that chain space. And now we're simply just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch until we reach the next chain space where we began. Once you reach the chain space where we began, make 2 singles in that chain space and slip stitch to join in our first single crochet. You're going to cut your yarn and change colors. Now, I'm not going to show you on camera because we are literally repeating the exact same thing on the other side. So just like you made 3 rounds of doubles and 3 rounds of singles, you're going to do that again on this side, starting at the seam, just like we did before. And I will meet you at the end. Also, you will sew up your side seam in the same manner. I didn't put that on camera either. Now, I am going to stop and line my bag now because I think it might be easier. You're going to cut around your bag, leaving yourself about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I do recommend using a stretchy jersey knit fabric because it's much easier to work with. And then I'm just going to cut around the inside here. Now I'm just going to take this to my sewing machine and sew around the edges. And then once you do that, you're going to insert your liner and clip it to the inside of the bag. You want to start clipping at the side seams first. So you'll notice that I'm lining up the side seam of my bag with the side seam of my liner. And then I'm going to come to the other side and do that again, because you definitely want your side seams lined up. Then once you do that, you are going to clip the rest of your liner, but you're going to line the top of your liner underneath the top of the stitches. You don't want to cover up these holes because we actually are going to crochet into them later. So you want to be able to get your hook through those stitches. Disclaimer, you will need to hand wash and lay flat to dry if you use my method for lining your bag. So I do use hot glue, but it does not come undone unless you put it in the dryer or use hot water. Also, I wanted to mention they do have fabric glue sticks, so you could realistically use that. You don't want to use too much hot glue or it's going to ooze through to the front and show up, and you really don't want that either. So if you'll notice, I'm using very little because it doesn't take much to hot glue your liner in. Now you can sew this if you want to. I just didn't want the thread to show up through my stripes on my handles. I am more comfortable with using my sewing machine and my crochet, but with the stripes on the handles, I knew that the thread would show through and I didn't want that. So that's why I chose to use hot glue on this particular bag. Do whatever you're comfortable with. So just continue that all the way around. Now we are going to add a finishing round along the mouth of the bag and the handles. And this is going to draw it in since it's kind of flaring out, and it's also going to secure our handles a little bit better so they don't stretch quite as much. So you're going to join in the chain space on the top of the motif like I'm showing you here. Chain 1 and single crochet in that chain space. Now we're going to skip the next stitch and make a single crochet in the next stitch. Skip the next stitch, single crochet. Skip the next stitch, single crochet. You should see the pattern here. You're just going to repeat that across. Once you get to the end, we are going to single crochet in that corner stitch there, and we're going to turn to work alongside the handle. So you're going to make a single crochet in every stitch. It will be a little more difficult because this is the side that the foundation chain is on from our foundation single crochet. But take your time and don't crochet too loosely because you don't want it to stretch. So just make one single crochet in every stitch of the handle. Then when you get along the top of the next motif, we're going to work in the same manner as before. You'll single crochet in that chain space, skip the next stitch, single crochet, skip the next stitch, single crochet. And you're just going to do that all the way across like we did on the other side. And then, of course, we're going to do exactly what we did on the other handle. We're going to turn and work up our chain stitches, going along those stitches here and single crochet in every stitch. When you reach the end, we are not going to join like usual. We're going to make an invisible join. So cut your yarn and pull your tail all the way through your last stitch. Then you're going to thread that tail onto your yarn needle and go under the loops of your first single crochet. Then you're going to go through the back loop of the last stitch that you made. This is going to make a completely seamless join. So you're going to want to weave in your tail really, really well. So now it's going to close more naturally, and that's really what you want. And then, of course, how it works is you slide the longer handle through the shorter handle. And this is a lot of color and a lot of fun, but I did want to show you that you can make it all in one color like I did here. I've discovered that my customers actually prefer neutral items like this, so I'm actually making a lot more like this, and it is made slightly different, and I will link my blog post in the description box because I talk about what changes that I made in order to make it look just like this and how I made the texture and everything. So just get creative and have fun. If you want to make a plain one, if you want to make a colorful one, they're so much fun to make. As you can see, I've made several of them, and they really do look good even in one color. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching.